Hello, welcome to my video lecture. Today's lecture on plant tissues. In earlier class, we tried to understand what are tissues, what is the broad classification of the plant tissues. Plant tissues are broadly divided into meristematic tissue, permanent tissue. Meristematic, permanent. Meristematic tissues are further differentiated according to the position in the plant where the meristematic tissue is present: apical meristem, intercalary meristem, lateral meristem. Apical meristem present at the stem apex, root apex, at the apices of the plant, shoot system, root system. Intercalary meristem present usually at the nodes in the grasses, below the leaf base. Whereas lateral meristem, it is nothing but cambium present between the xylem and phloem of vascular bundles. According to the formation, there are two types: primary meristem, secondary meristem. Primary meristem is present from the beginning, from the seedling stage. That is called primary meristem. For example, all the apical meristems are primary meristem. But sometimes, according to the necessity, requirement of the plant, some permanent tissues, just like parenchyma, they again differentiate into meristematic tissue. They are not present from the beginning but formed later on according to the necessity of the plant. That is called secondary meristem. The meristem that is formed in the medullary rays during the secondary growth, that is a secondary meristem. Vascular bundles, the space present between the vascular bundles is known as medullary rays. In the medullary rays, primary tissue is parenchyma, but when the plant commences the secondary growth, the cells adjacent to the cambium, they get differentiate into meristem, that is called secondary meristem. Permanent tissues. What are permanent tissue? As the name itself indicates, group of mature, differentiated cells. They are differentiated into different types. Later on we will study. They have lost the capacity of cell divisions either temporarily or permanently. Permanent tissues, in the cells of the permanent tissues have lost the capacity, they cannot divide. Whereas the meristematic cells repeatedly divide. But these have lost the capacity of cell divisions. They cannot divide. Perform specific functions. They are produced from the meristematic in the beginning, no doubt, but upon maturation, they get differentiated and take up the specific functions, attributed functions, allotted functions. Majority of the plant body is made up of permanent tissue. Whether you take a root, stem, leaf, flower, or any part of the plant, most of the plant tissue is permanent tissue. Meristematic tissue will be very small and confined to particular regions, but majority of the plant body is made up of permanent. Permanent tissues are first divided into simple tissues and complex tissues. Simple, complex. The name itself indicates tissue, simple tissue, whereas the structure functions are complex. Now, if you take the simple tissues, all the cells in a simple tissue are similar in morphology and function. In a simple tissue, it is a group of cells. In that group of cells, all the cells will be almost morphologically similar. They perform the same function. Then, three types of parenchyma. Three types. Simple tissues are parenchyma, chlorenchyma, sclerenchyma. Once again, parenchyma, chlorenchyma, sclerenchyma. Now, first, if we take the parenchyma tissue, most simple tissue. Most simple among all types of tissues, it is very simple. But it forms majority of the plant body. Therefore, it is known as fundamental or ground tissue. Sorry, this is ground tissue. Permanent, fundamental or ground tissue. In parenchyma, what are the characteristics of the cells? The cells are living. Important character. The cells possess a single nucleus. Because they are living, they possess nucleus. They consist of a large vacuole in the center. Therefore, usually the cytoplasm is pushed to the peripheral parts of the cell. Large vacuole in the center. Then, cell walls mostly made up of cellulose, mostly, but sometimes it may consist of partly hemicellulose and pectin. Cellulose mostly, hemicellulose or pectin cell wall. Then another important character, intercellular space is usually present, but sometimes they may be absent. For example, in leaves, palisade tissue is there. The cells are compactly arranged. Columnar cells are compactly arranged. But mostly present intercellular spaces. Cells are connected, interconnected in a tissue. The cells are interconnected or connected with each other by means of plasmodesmata, minute connections which pass through the pits. So these are the characters. Cells are living, possess nucleus, large vacuole, then hemicellulose, cellulose cell wall, the intercellular present, space is present, cells are connected by plasmodesmata. These parenchyma are again three types. Chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma. Word is derived from chloroplast, chlorophyll. Chlorenchyma, Aerenchyma, storage parenchyma. Again, chlorenchyma, Aerenchyma, storage. If you take the functions, chlorenchyma cells possess chloroplasts. We know the structure of the chloroplast. By having the chlorophyll, they perform the photosynthesis. By having the chlorophyll, they perform. So, main function of the chlorenchyma is photosynthesis. Then where do we find this chlorenchyma? Mostly in leaves, in palisade tissue, mesophyll tissue. In dicots, mesophyll tissue is differentiated into palisade tissue and spongy tissue. So this chlorenchyma is present in almost not only leaves but in all green parts. Suppose if petiole is green, there below the epidermis we find the chlorenchyma. So young stems, like that, wherever the parts are green, but mostly leaves. Function, photosynthesis. Character, they possess the chloroplast. Aerenchyma, air. These are with large intercellular spaces in between the cells. Large intercellular spaces. These intercellular spaces are usually filled with air. So therefore, this tissue will be useful for transpiration, for exchange of gases, for providing the buoyancy. This type of tissues are usually found in hydrophytes, free-flowing hydrophytes like Wallisneria hydrilla. Wallisneria hydrilla. There the intercellular spaces are large, filled with air, therefore that air provides the buoyancy so that they can easily float on the surface of the water. So remember, Aerenchyma, intercellular spaces large, filled with air. Then they provide the buoyancy, providing the lightness so that they can float on the surface of the water. Remember, hydrilla, Wallisneria, hydrophytes. Storage parenchyma. The cells store the food materials, reserve food materials. Maybe either starch, lipids, proteins, or this tissue may store the water also, just like in agave, it stores the water. Just like in other plants. Then store food materials and is present endosperm, rice, wheat, cotyledons, pulses. Then in fruits, fleshy fruits, total storage parenchyma. Then tubers, potato tubers, underground tubers where the food materials are stored, starch materials are stored, sweet potato. Then in agave it is not food material but water is stored, kalabanda. Then these are the three types: chlorenchyma, photosynthesis, chloroplast; Aerenchyma, intercellular spaces, air, hydrophytes; Wallisneria hydrilla. Storage parenchyma, they stores the food materials and in some plants water. Where is it present? Endosperm, cotyledons, tubers, succulent pods. In hydrophytes, succulent pods, there they store the water, just like in agave. This is the classification of permanent tissues, simple tissues, parenchyma, chlorenchyma, sclerenchyma. We have taken the characters of parenchyma and three types of parenchyma classification. So in next class we will see about these two, chlorenchyma and sclerenchyma. Okay.